Good morning, everyone, and welcome to everyone that is sitting socially distanced here in the Wagga Wagga Civic Theatre, and our colleagues and friends that are watching us in our live stream. This is the slightly delayed launch of Artstate Wagga Wagga, which will be taking place from the 5th to the 9th of November here in this gorgeous city. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Auntie Isabel Reid to deliver the Welcome to Country. Auntie Isabel. There you go, that's yours. We're being socially distanced.
Yes, good morning everyone. I'm Auntie Isabel, Wiradjuri Elder, and I'm so proud to be here this morning to do this presentation. As you know, a welcome to country is so very important and also very necessary, as it demonstrates an ancient tradition to welcome visitors to our ancestral lands. It has been conducted over thousands of years to officially welcome people and to identify who we are and who you are. I would now like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the custodians of this land, the Wiradjuri peoples, whose land you are gathered on here today. I also wish to acknowledge our elders, past, present and future, for the whole of memories, their tradition and culture of all Aboriginal Australians. So in recognition and respect for all Aboriginal people, our culture and heritage, it gives me so much pleasure to welcome you all here to the land of the Wiradjuri peoples, and you have a lovely morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your words of welcome, Auntie Isabel. It's a slightly different environment to which we found ourselves in Tamworth. I'd also like to acknowledge all the Wiradjuri elders, past, present and the future, and all First Nations people here in the room today and watching online, and also acknowledge Auntie Cheryl Penrith, who has also been part of the providing support to Artstate as we've moved here to Wagga Wagga. I would also like to thank Uncle Stan Grant AM, who gave us permission to use his beautiful Wiradjuri welcome to Wagga Wagga that's at the airport as our landing page on the Artstate website. I'd like to acknowledge that there is the councillors from Wagga Wagga City Council in the room, the Mayor Councillor Greg Conkey, Vanessa Keenan, Tim Koschel and Kerry Pascoe, the General Manager Peter Thompson and Janice Summerhays, the Director of Community Services. I'd also like to acknowledge Anne Lowe, the Chair of Eastern Riverina Arts, Tim Kurilovich, who's the Executive Director of Eastern River Arts and the Eastern River Arts Board. I do have some apologies this morning. Both the New South Wales and the Federal Parliament are sitting today. So Michael McCormack, the Deputy Prime Minister and the Member for the Riverina, the Honourable Ben Franklin, MLC, the New South Wales Parliamentary Secretary for the Arts, Dr Joe McGurr, who's the Member for Wagga Wagga, and Don Harwin, the Minister for the Arts, they've all sent their apologies, but Don is going to appear via a video that he recorded earlier in the week. So the New South Wales Minister for the Arts, the Honourable Don Harwin, MLC.
Thank you for all joining me here today, whether you're online or you're in person. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land I'm on today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, as well as those of the land on which this Artstate launch is taking place, the Wiradjuri people of the land of Wagga Wagga. I pay my respects to all elders past and present, and also those who are emerging. And I extend that respect to any other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders joining us today. I am absolutely delighted to welcome you all to the launch of Artstate Wagga Wagga 2020. Each year, Artstate travels to a different regional corner of our state to showcase the diverse practices and cultures of each location. And I'm thrilled that this year we're travelling to Wagga Wagga, the city of good sport. While Wagga Wagga is a region famous for its talented sports culture, I'm really pleased and delighted to shine the spotlight on its talented musicians, visual artists and storytellers. The program will be a great showcase of local talent and a celebration of arts in the Riverina. It will also depict the strong influence of Wiradjuri culture and the people's connection to the land. This year, the themes are walking together and shaping tomorrow. These themes send an optimistic and empowering message that if we work together, we can achieve better outcomes for all. As Minister for the Arts, I hold the perspective that while 2020 has been a challenging year for all of us, especially for those across regional New South Wales, we can develop a bright future together and deliver for our strong and talented regional communities and artists. Regional New South Wales is brimming with talent, innovation and ideas. And also, arts and cultural activities are of vital importance to the life of communities across New South Wales. The $100 million Regional Cultural Fund was established to ensure regional New South Wales receives its fair share of arts and cultural infrastructure and provides recreational and educational benefits, as well as increased cultural tourism. $100 million has been shared across 136 projects ranging from major new exhibition and performing arts spaces, refurbishment of libraries, theatres and museums, and through to small grassroots community projects and digitisation efforts. To date, 58 projects have now been completed across regional New South Wales, including 2 local projects, the Green Gunya Museum in Lockhart and Batlow Literary Institute in Snowy Valleys. Our Regional Cultural Fund is also providing funding for a further 18 local projects, including the Pump House Creative Enterprise at Albury, Griffith Regional Theatre, Hilltop's Cultural Community and Education Precinct, the Roxy Theatre at Leeton, and the Museum of the Riverina at Wagga Wagga. I congratulate and thank Western Riverina Arts for its work in bringing Artstate to Wagga Wagga and the Riverina region in this final iteration of Artstate. This year will be different from previous events. I'm convinced that bringing us all together, whether that's in person or whether it's online, will allow us to share and discuss and strengthen our regional arts sector, setting us up for a strong future together by informing artists and organisations and finding ways to increase audience participation in arts and culture for audiences throughout New South Wales. And while many of you may not be able to attend in person this year, I strongly encourage you to join in online where it's possible for this incredibly important event on the Arts and Cultural calendar, Artstate Wagga Wagga 2020. Thanks.
Well, Mr. Harwin has made a couple of, it is Eastern Riverina Arts, and my apologies. So now let's move on, and I would now like to welcome the Mayor of Wagga Wagga to the stage. Councillor Greg Conkey. The last time we met in Tamworth was a completely different weather, landscape and environment. We were in dust and bushfires and smoke and drought. And then yesterday, as I was driving to Wagga through green rolling hills and the Tarcutta Creek sort of very visible from the road, and the wattles and the plum blossoms coming out in the landscape, even though we are socially distanced and bound by a pandemic, it seemed to be a little bit more hopeful, and hopefully that Artstate Wagga Wagga will be able to demonstrate some of that. Please welcome Councillor Greg Conkey, OAM, to the Civic Theatre stage. Nice to see you too.
Morning, and what strange times we live in. I too would like to acknowledge that the Wiradjuri people, who are the traditional custodians of the land that we are meeting on today. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging of the Wiradjuri nation, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people who are present here today. As Mayor of the City of Wagga Wagga, I'm proud that our city has been selected to host Artstate 2020. We have big shoes to fill, following last year's very successful event in Tamworth, which was attended by a number of people, including many from Wagga and also many in the audience today. But we are up to the task. I'd like to thank esteemed Senior Wiradjuri Elder, Aunty Isabel Reid, for your welcoming us here today on Wiradjuri land, and acknowledge Aunty Isabel's deep and public commitment and ongoing contribution to supporting Wiradjuri culture and community through all aspects of our community's art and cultural life. I'd also like to acknowledge fellow councillors, Councillor Tim Koshel, Councillor Yvonne Braid, Councillor Vanessa Keenan, and I think Councillor Kerry Pascoe is also here today. I'd like to acknowledge the Chair of Regional Arts New South Wales, Julie Briggs, Chair of Eastern Riverina Arts, Anne Lowe, Scott Howie, Artstate Arts Program Director, and our MC, Elizabeth Rogers, CEO of Regional Arts New South Wales. Wagga has always been a very creative city. In our first Reconciliation Action Plan, Wagga City Council has acknowledged that the words Wagga Wagga, historically translated as meaning place of many crows, is more accurately translated from the Wiradjuri language to many dances or place of celebrations. Our cultural precinct is clustered around the Wurundjeri Lagoon, an ancient ceremonial and gathering site. It's a place where people have made art, told stories and shared culture for more than 40,000 years. So it is very fitting that we begin our new journey as the place of dance and celebration by hosting Artstate Wagga, this major conference and festival of arts and cultural exchange. I'm a very big supporter of all forms of art, whether that be through performance, exhibitions, festivals, music or other genres. And you will have noticed that I haven't brought my saxophone with me today, for which you can be extremely thankful. The arts, cultural and creative industries make a significant contribution to our city's economic vibrancy, and will also be making a substantial contribution towards our community's journey as we recover from COVID-19. Wagga Wagga is a city of great beauty, and this time of the year is especially spectacular, with canola in full bloom, our majestic Murrumbidgee River and its surrounds, and our impressive parks and cultural facilities. We are very pleased to partner with Regional Arts New South Wales, working alongside our colleagues at Eastern Riverina Arts and our creative community for this event. I would also like to thank the Minister for Arts, the Honourable Don Harwin, and Create New South Wales for their support of the 4-year Artstate program, which has enabled this event to be staged across regional New South Wales. I encourage everyone to attend Artstate Wagga Wagga. You are in for an absolute treat with a host of special events, exhibitions, performances and experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conkey, and we are certainly looking forward to coming back here with the event in November. It's now my pleasure to introduce Julie Briggs, who is the Chair of Regional Arts New South Wales and a board member of Regional Arts Australia. And the choice that the Regional Arts New South Wales made to come to Wagga had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that Julie lives here. Please welcome Julie Briggs.
Good morning, and it is great that the fourth and final year of Artstate is going to be in my hometown of Wagga Wagga. I'm just so excited about it. I'd like to acknowledge that we're standing on Wiradjuri country this morning and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and say thank you so much to Auntie Iz for such a warm and wonderful welcome. It's always just a joy to hear your welcome to country, Auntie Iz. I'd like to acknowledge the Minister, the Honourable Donna Harwin, for his video address this morning, and also Councillor Conkey, the other councillors from Wagga City Council, and those of you that are watching this launch on live stream. As Elizabeth said, it's a very, very new world for us for Artstate this year, and we'll be approaching it in our usual innovative and creative way. I am so pleased that we will be holding the fourth and final one here in Wagga, a city with a long history of supporting and encouraging the arts. Where better could we wrap up 4 years? In fact, this is where my interest in the arts really got developed, studying drama at Riverina College of Advanced Education with amazing Colin Anderson, some of you will remember him, and working in productions with the Riverina Trucking Company, which went on to become the Riverina Theatre Company, so I'm very much showing my age there. As we announce the program for our final Artstate, we also reflect on the successes of our previous 3 events in Lismore, in Bathurst and in Tamworth, and the footprint that that celebration of regional creativity has left across the state. Although we have had to tailor our event this year to the current circumstances, we are looking forward to being able to deliver another fantastic Artstate in November, an innovative and thought-provoking program that is relevant to the arts, not just in regional New South Wales, but right across Australia. We couldn't do this without the amazing support of our partners, and I'd like to acknowledge the financial support that we've received from the New South Wales Government through Create New South Wales and New South Wales Health, from Wagga Wagga City Council, from TAFE New South Wales, and from the Federal Government through the Regional Arts Fund. That has seen Artstate become a platform that provides financial and social opportunities for so many creatives, and the creatives that are working and living in regional New South Wales and in other regional areas across Australia. It has been particularly important to demonstrate that even in times of great adversity, the arts in all its many forms can provide a common platform that brings people together. And you know, we keep saying we're all in this together. I think that Artstate will provide us with that platform where we can come together to reflect on a year that has been phenomenally difficult from go to woe. I'd like to acknowledge all the work that Elizabeth, the staff of Regional Arts New South Wales, the production team and the staff here at the Civic Theatre have done to ensure that this is a COVID-safe event. And you will notice that you're socially distanced this morning, that everything had to be ticketed, that this lectern is wiped down between every speaker. So we are very conscious of the fact that we need to do this. We are very conscious of the fact that if people want to come to Artstate, they want to know that they're going to be safe. And we are working very hard to make sure that that's just the case. So much so that Regional Arts New South Wales has recently become a registered COVID-safe business as well. So everybody is pulling together to ensure that this is the safest possible event that we can run. I'd like to also acknowledge the work of Eastern Riverina Arts, of Anne Lowe and the board of ERA, of Tim Kirilowicz and the staff at Eastern Riverina Arts. We always partner with the local regional arts group, and we couldn't put this on without their assistance. This year's theme, as the Minister said, is particularly relevant in these times we find ourselves. On day 1, our theme is walking together, and on day 2, it's shaping tomorrow. Walking together is inspired by the concept of Yindyamarra, And this broad theme, which is around mutual respect and responsibility, reflects lessons to be learned by listening and engaging with the first Australians to develop an understanding of arts, culture and language, and where traditional practices should be included in future thinking around water, land, management, environment across regional New South Wales. This theme includes all the diverse people and cultures that now live on this land and how we can better build a place for everyone. The theme for day 2 is shaping tomorrow, and many of us are certainly looking forward to tomorrow, the other side of 2020 at least. It builds on the previous day's conversations. If we walk together, we can achieve better outcomes for all. This is a moment in time and an opportunity after all the disasters that regional New South Wales has endured to ponder what the world might look like across all aspects of society and how the arts and cultural sector can lead, shape and reflect this new world. Less global and more local. New ways of engagement using technology that is kinder to the planet and the value of connected communities. These things will be explored on the second day of the conference. We have recently confirmed keynote speakers that include Ella Havlicka, a descendant of the Wiradjuri people who became the first Aboriginal woman to join the Australian Ballet in 2013, and Gail Kennedy, an award-winning writer, a Wangabon woman and a wheelchair user who, in her own words, says she will put a spin on the theme of walking together. Complementary to the speakers program will be a diverse arts program comprising exhibitions, musical and theatrical performances, public installations, written and visual arts, traditional Wiradjuri practices and more. We're also including breakout sessions in industry-specific areas, and there'll be presentations from TAFE New South Wales and Music New South Wales to build the capacity of those working in the arts in regional New South Wales. The arts program is free and open for the community to enjoy. However, numbers are going to be limited. It's going to be very different to the previous years. Social distancing will be enforced, and we will abide by all the COVID-19 restrictions. Consequently, this means, differently from previous years, that bookings will be required for everything that we are doing so that we can ensure that we have exactly the right numbers for the venues that we're utilising right across the city. And we would ask you to bear with us while we ask you to do those bookings to ensure that we can keep you as safe as we possibly can. Scott Howie will provide more detail on the arts program in a moment. However, I'm encouraging everyone to take the opportunity to participate in this fantastic COVID-safe event and enjoy everything that Wagga Wagga and the wonderful Eastern River region has to offer. And come on down to Artstate. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And, I do reiterate the fact that, the arts are incredibly important. And for me this morning, just being able to stand in the wings and listen to Dr. Harold Gretton perform on his classical guitar from the Riverina Con, which 3 days ago was going to be an ensemble of students, but Department of Education regulations banned that. So it was just so nice to be able to experience live music, a real musician on a stage, and that sound that you don't get listening necessarily to digital recordings. So thank you so much, Harold, for coming in this morning and starting us off with a taste of the arts. Now, my final speaker this morning is going to give you a really great outline on the arts program, because for all Wagga Wagga residents and people from the Riverina, the arts program is always free, despite the fact it is all going to be ticketed. That doesn't mean you have to pay for a ticket. And it's also an opportunity for you to celebrate your heroes, the people in your region that are doing such extraordinary work. So Scott Howie has put together the arts program, and he's been making significant contributions to the cultural landscape of the Riverina area for over 20 years as an artist, an arts manager, arts educator and advocate. He's taken 12 months leave from his role as Executive Director of Eastern Riverina Arts to focus on developing the arts program for Artstate. And I have to give him enormous credit because the program that he envisaged when we were here in March has had to be completely reimagined to fit in with the current regulations and the world that we're living in. Since 2011, Scott has grown Eastern Riverina Arts into one of the regional New South Wales most connected and impactful arts organisations. Major projects embracing diversity and inclusion have empowered communities and amplified the voices of the Riverina. Please give a really warm welcome to local heroes, Scott Howie.
Thank you very much, and hello. I too would like to acknowledge the unceded sovereignty of the mighty Wiradjuri Nation and pay my respects to elders past and present. And thank you for your ongoing custodianship of the land and water of the area in which I live. And I'd also like to acknowledge the uncertain times for artists and arts organisations and applaud all of the artists that I've been in conversation with for their willingness to adapt and to be flexible and to completely rewrite programs and projects, as we've had to do quite a bit over the last 6 months. In developing the arts program, my aim is to let the work of our artists and their contributions throughout this region speak loudly about who we are. The artists and their works presented here are not something just for Artstate. They are part of ongoing practices and commitment to expanding participation and exploring identity of the cultural life of this region. I have lived in this region for over 20 years, and I've watched artists develop their practice here and take it to the world. I've watched people come from all over the world to here to make new homes and share with us new ways of making. And I've had the privilege of our First Nations people sharing the old ways of living with us. And I hope that the art program shares a little of my experience with you. Each day of Artstate will commence with a morning call to action from the balcony of the Civic Theatre. Emerging opera star Lizette Bolton and cellist Claire Brazel will perform structured improvisations that will be broadcast across the city through some of the biggest car stereos that Wagga has to offer. Our opening ceremony, Wagga Wagga to Dance to Celebrate, will be directed by artist Jonathan Jones. This ceremonial welcome to country and introduction to Wagga will be an immersive soundscape that calls us all together. The welcome to country will be created with local senior Wiradjuri elders and Uncle Stan Grant Sr. explaining the true meaning of the name Wagga Wagga. This project will be a coming together of sounds, songs and stories that will deeply connect people to country and takes place in, around and on the Wurundjeri Lagoon, as mentioned, a place of deep cultural significance. The Artstate proceedings will be overseen by a new sculpture, Strong Goanna, by Wiradjuri artist Lorraine Tai. Fusing her traditional weaving techniques with steel and wire, this wonderful goanna will be installed in the foyer of the Civic Theatre. The Artstate program will offer the premiere of new work, music from around the world, a guided light and sound tour of the lagoon, poetry and prose, and a few surprises. Each night at the Playhouse, Riverina Playhouse, an assortment of weird and wonderful drag, cabaret, poets, musicians and burlesque performers will keep you entertained. A few of the highlights include the House of Folk Presents, this dynamic drag trio from Albury Wodonga representing First Nations realness will give us a show that is all about pride and identity, blackness and fire. They're going to set our soul alight. A trio of the sassiest burlesque queens in the Riverina, Titty Titty Bang Bang, are going to have us lighting up the stage with their stunning glam and captivating tease. Their unique and thrilling experience you're never going to forget. Peter Casey will be well known to many of you. His while there's been too much history this year, Peter J. Casey is into it. Armed only with a voice, a suit and a piano, he'll pay tribute to a time that everyone can't wait to forget. An evening of live satire and songs with special guests. We've been kindly offered the use of the St John's Church, where I'm going to work with internationally acclaimed synthesizer and electronic musician Dave Burriston, who'll be performing a new work comprising field recordings and his own modular synthesizers that he builds himself, processing it into a multi-surround sound installation. We're also going to be bringing back a beautiful piano work composed by Peter Sculthorpe, commissioned by the Wagga City Council in 2011. Riverina Dreaming will be performed on stage here at the Civic Theatre by Joshua Prenzler from the Riverina Conservatorium of Music, along with other works by local composers. The region's visual artists will be showcased in 4 exhibitions. Something to Say, curated by Sarah McEwen and Julie Mungarrett, brings female artists from across regional New South Wales together to explore making art in these times of inequality, climate change, and of course, COVID. Old New is curated by Kate Allman in partnership with the Museum of Riverina, will show contemporary responses to the unique objects found across our region's museums. And Horizons Made Wide will be a survey exhibition of artists from Eastern and Western Riverina area, curated by our own Tim Kirillovich. The ambition and scope of the Wagga Wagga Art Gallery will be on display through its exhibition program as well. The last exhibition I want to mention is one curated by Dr. James Farley and Hayley French from Parramatta Art Studios. This exhibition is only going to hint at the possibilities of an exchange program that we have established between the Eastern Riverina and Parramatta Art Studios as part of our ongoing commitment to increasing opportunities for local artists. An exciting work, and if you're a past attendee of Artstate, you will have seen the work of Real Artworks, a post-disability organisation. And they are coming back to Wagga where it all started for them many, many years ago. Be prepared to flip your switches when the familiar becomes strange, when we explore these unusual times. This will be a collaboration between artists from the Northern Rivers, the South Coast, and the Riverina, including some members from Wagga's own Art Factory who are here today. A shout out to the Art Factory out there. Vic McEwen from the CAD Factory is collaborating with blacksmith John Wood to create a performance Sigh presented among flames and molten steel, the clarinet, the pump organ, contact, forged steel and more. It'll be an intimate performance in a working blacksmith studio where you'll hear the screams and sighs of this enduring paradoxical medium. And then towards the end of Artstate, 20 years ago, I used to listen to a performer, Clint Crichton, play in the Tourist Hotel before he left for Nashville and exploring the grand world. He's now back in Australia with a huge band performing under the name William Crichton. His shows have sold out WOMAD, Bluefest, his Woodford Folk Festival, and he's a great guy who grew up here in Ardalethan and Tumut. And he's going to be supported by Tumut's own rising star, Rory Phillips, an impressive 14-year young man who's already played Tamworth Country Music Festival half a dozen times and is an absolute charismatic and brilliant performer. And I just love the idea of bringing Rory next to one of his heroes and that idea of Rory seeing where his career might go to, all based here in regional New South Wales. And finally, to conclude Artstate, not only to conclude Artstate Wagga, but to celebrate the entire 4 years, we have a spectacle set on the lagoon called Reflecting Hope, light and sound extravaganza conceived by the spectacle artist Clint Hurrell from the Northern Rivers, with an amazing pumping soundtrack by our own internationally travelled DJ producer superstar Nina Las Vegas. Reflecting Hope will be a memorable celebration of the program and an optimistic signpost towards an inspiring global future for regional New South Wales arts practice. And now, to just give you a little taste, I'd like to bring to the stage Carrie Dawesh, who arrived in Wagga Wagga from Iraq in 2019. His knowledge of traditional Yazidi song has made him a central figure in the large Yazidi community that has settled here since escaping northern Iraq in 2014 after the genocidal massacre committed by ISIL. Carey is integral to his community and recently played for over 6 hours as the Yazidi community gathered 2 weeks ago to commemorate the 6th anniversary of that. And I'm sorry for bringing you down at that last moment, but he's going to perform for 40. It's important that we recognise our musicians and that we acknowledge the role that art plays in healing and bringing community together. At Artstate, Carey's performance will feature a mixture of his own compositions and traditional songs sung in Kurmanji. And today he's going to perform for us a beautiful song that is about yearning, about being away from your family, about being distanced. And I think it's fitting for these times we're in. Please welcome to the stage Carey Dawesh.
تيركي غربتي دزد كشتم ظالم خاين فلكي في دنياي سبوم تيركي غربتي دزد كشتم ظالم خاين فلكي بوم نخوشي 1000 سال لنافلحي فودوشكي دزد كشتم ظالم خاين فلكي دزد كشتم ظالم خاين فلكي بوم نخوشي 1000 سال نافلحي فودوشكي دزد كشتم ظالم خاين فلكي دزد كشتم ظالم خاين فلكي ما تفدر بصبو بي ظلم وكوتكي تصدق وشتم ظالم خاين فلكي أغف عمري ما تفدر بصبو بي ظلم وكوتكي تصدق وشتم ظالم خاين فلكي هر دمشين فرمان البيمتي عم ناطرسن اشتن قطو بدولتي عم ناطرسن اشتن قطو بدولتي هر دمشين فرمان البيمتي عم ناطرسن اشتن قطو بدولتي عم ناطرسن اشتن قطو بدولتي تيركي غربتي قصد كشتم ظالم خاين فلكي في دنيا يسبوم تيركي غربتي قصد كشتم ظالم خاين فلكي هر دمشم وفرمان البيمتي عم ناطرسن اشتن قطو بدولتي عم ناطرسن اشتن قطو بدولتي بوم نخوشي هزار سال النفلحي فودوشكي تصدق وشتم ظالم خاين فلكي تصدق وشتم ظالم خاين فلكي
Wow, that's just a taste of what's to come and a really clear demonstration of the diversity to be showcased in the arts program from Scott's amazing program. Please give another round of thanks to Harold and Kerry for their performances here. And I have to say personally, I am so looking forward to enjoying some of that arts program. People who are arts administrators do this because, you know, obviously we don't have the talent, the skill and the vision of the artists. But as I always say to people, I make great audience. So the details are being finalised and the registrations for Artstate Wagga Wagga will be on sale on the 7th of September. Please check the Artstate website as the speakers and the programs are updated every day. Subscribe to the Artstate EDM or follow our socials to keep track of the inevitable changes. And let's continue the conversation and celebrate the arts in regional New South Wales. And I so look forward to seeing everyone in Wagga in November. Thank you.